Hi, Desi. Hi, darling.
Hi everybody. Hi
Hi.
Petronella. So good
Hey,
to
good.
see you.
Lovely to see you, my darling. I gather it's really freezing cold in England.
Oh my gosh, it is absolutely Arctic. Tell me it's sunny and wonderful in Florida.
No, it's not. It's about 15 degrees. I know, which doesn't sound that cold considering it's I think below freezing in London. But for here, it's really freezing and it's grey and it's drizzling. And this is
Oh,
not what we signed up for.
no, no, it
Yeah.
isn't, but it's absolutely freezing here. But I mean, I was shivering, but the upside was I keep drinking hot water and I think, well, actually, maybe this is helping me in shedding a few extra pounds. So
Definitely.
there's always the
Christmas.
bright side.
Look on the bright side. Christmas pounds be gone. Desi, you're not actually doing a reset, I don't think, at the moment, are you?
No, I'm on strict three.
Strict.
I'll probably do a reset in April, but I just thought I would do a quite a strict three. But I am cutting out a bit of dairy and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
generally, are you okay with dairy, do you think? Or you
I
know?
think I am okay with dairy, but in smaller quantities. I think
Yeah.
it's not just the dairy. It's not a yes or a no, but I think dairy in moderation is
Yeah.
fine, but not too much.
Not too
So,
much.
and that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And does it get you in the sinuses if you have too much, or does it give you a headache or anything like that?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
sinuses,
Yeah.
and also I find that certainly if I'm trying to, rein things back and shed those couple of holiday
Yeah.
pounds, cutting out the dairy is really helpful, actually.
Really
It makes a
helpful.
big difference to me.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So talk us through your favourite breakfast, Desi. Well, I know you're very good because you really shake things up. You don't tend to stick to particular meals every day. But what did you have today?
What did I have today? Today I had toasted seeds because I think because it's so cold here,
Yeah.
sometimes it's really nice just to have something warm to start with. So instead of having cold seeds, I toasted my seeds and I warmed up my berries. So I had the berries and the seeds, but just a little bit warmer with a sprinkling of cinnamon, and it just felt that little bit more comforting than the
It
cold.
does,
So
doesn't
that's,
it? Yeah.
yeah.
And cinnamon itself is so comforting, isn't it?
And it's so good for us
So
too,
good
as
for
well,
yeah. No,
as you
exactly. Very
taught
good.
me. But like you said, yes, we're all different. And that's the really empowering thing about HBD is that we learn, especially in the beginning, keep your food diaries, because this is a real key to that.
Yeah.
We learn what actually works for us and we're different. And so, what works for me may not work for you or for the next man or woman, but I do know what works for me. And I know that variety, I have a low boredom threshold. And if I eat the same thing every day, it can be a doorway where I can segue into bad habits.
Yeah.
So having that little bit of variety, mixing it up, and as we know, having variety in our diet is also a cornerstone for good nutrition.
Yep.
We want not to eat the same thing over and over and over again.
Exactly. Really
So
key and very good for our microbes as well.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I try to mix it up, but then again, life gets in the way, and we work, we have lives, we have our ups and downs, and sometimes it is easier just to grab the same thing on repeat when times are like that, so that you can go on
Yeah.
autopilot and you don't have to think.
I still do
Um,
that when I'm doing a reset, I have to admit, even though I should be a bit more advanced than that. But I tend to have the seeds and apple every day for breakfast and fish every evening with vegetables and chicken or eggs every lunchtime. And I just find it helps sometimes to be a bit of a robot to just get you through, like automatic pilot. But obviously it's not the way to live.
yeah.
But I find it quite comforting for the reset.
I think that's a good strategy too, especially for people who are just starting out.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take on.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started HBD, and that was over 3.5 years now. I can't believe it. I know, it's amazing. It's been brilliant. If not, I wouldn't have been doing it for three and a
No,
half years.
true.
But I know in the beginning, when I first started, I felt really daunted because you have the
Yeah.
rules, you have foods, you have all this information, and sometimes keeping it stupid simple
Yeah.
is makes it easier. You don't have to be a master chef, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about the book and also the club now is that the resources are now there. We didn't have that 3.5 years
No.
ago. And it just makes it so much easier to have, recipes, to have meal planners, to have these things thought out, because there's a lot to take on. And not only that, you're asking your body, we're
Yeah.
asking our body to change drastically from, what can be a lifetime of habits. I mean, for me, it was, God, 50, nearly, it was over 55 years of bad habits,
Yeah.
of abusing my body with the ups and downs of yo-yo dieting, fad diets. I mean, cabbage soup diet, ice cream diet, you name it, I've done it all. And I think for me, with HBD, it's a real rejection of these fad
Yeah.
diets, of these yo-yo diets, which, might be a short-term fix, but they're not a way to live, and they don't solve the problem. For me, I might lose a few pounds, but I yo-yoed all my life. And for the first time in, God, half a century, over half a century, my weight is stable. It's been stable. Yes, it goes up and down, by a few pounds, but I feel well, I feel healthy. I feel probably,
Yeah.
as well as I did in my 20s, in my late
That's
20s.
so
And
cool. So
that's
good to hear. Yeah, amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the beginning can be hard, and especially for all you lovely people who have just joined
Yeah.
us, it might feel daunting. There's a lot to take on, but I promise you, it becomes a way of life. And that's the real rejection of fad diets and things, is this is a long-term lifestyle which is sustainable, really good for you. I had high cholesterol, was threatened with statins. I have hypothyroid, I had arthritic inflammatory pain, and all that
Yeah.
really through good nutrition, which is HBD,
Yeah.
has resolved all that. So for me, who doesn't want to lose a few pounds? We all want
We all
to,
do.
fit
Yeah.
into those jeans, and, that's really empowering. But the real empowerment comes from the well-being, the vitality, and the long-term health benefits.
The long-term health benefits, exactly. Well said, Tyne. Because that's what happens with HBD. Really, the weight loss occurs as a side effect of improving our health, reducing our inflammation. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, because it's actually quite hard to lose weight when we are in a state of inflammation. So the odds are stacked against us. And for anybody who's resetting at the moment, and I know that lots of people will be on about day 11 or 12 of phase two, or maybe 10 or 11. These days can feel particularly hard. And very often we think, that's it, I've had enough. And I do it myself when I'm doing a reset. 1 or maybe 2 days seem particularly tough. So that's why we need to get really clear about our whys. What do we want to achieve by following HBD? And how important is it to us to change, to change what we want to change? And so it's just, for resetters, it's just 16 days of being really strict, and you'll never ever regret those 16 days. You'll always be so grateful that you did them, and so proud of yourself for getting through as well. I think that's really important to say. And it's lovely, Desi, having you in the club. I'm very, very honoured to have you as an angel in the HBD Club. And Desi, she's, as she said, she's been with us for 3.5 years, and she is ever generous. And she's always got people tightly by the hand and helping them through. So thank you for all you do there, Desi. Really, really appreciate it. And we've got a live clinic this evening, and we're going to be talking about, because I get so many questions, I don't know if you do too, Desi, about I'm training for a marathon. Is that okay? Can I train for my marathon and do HBD? You
No,
don't.
you cannot. You can once you reach phase four, by all means, do multiple marathons, and you'll have the vitality and the well-being to do it. But in the beginning, absolutely not, because if you train for marathons, you're creating inflammation, which
Yeah,
is what you're trying to reduce or eliminate. And so it's you're self-sabotaging. And, we often, like you said, people think, oh my God, can I get through those, that next week? It feels like forever. And I remember that, because it did feel like
it
forever for
does.
me. It was really hard. You have to dig deep.
Yeah,
But in the long scheme, I look back now, 3.5 years later, and 16 days is a small sacrifice for the benefits. But no, exercise, gentle walking, as Petronella says, just very gentle, but
Yeah.
think of it as almost as if you have an injury and you need to rest in order to cure yourself. So if you hurt yourself, you wouldn't go and do more exercise. You would lie down so that you could do it as soon as possible. So think of those 16 days as an investment, but no exercise.
No
No
exercise.
exercise, no hard
No
exercise.
hard
Follow
exercise.
the rules.
Yeah.
And it's so tempting to think, oh, well, maybe I'll change this, or, pushing back a little bit against, but I've always done this and I don't want to give this up. But you need to, you really do. If you want the full results and you want it to be as effective as it is and it can be, then you absolutely have to follow those rules
Yeah.
to a T.
Thank you, Desi. Well said. And it's in this book, The Human Being Diet, second edition, and it's Rule 5.
Yeah.
It's really, really important. So, so I hope that will be very helpful to people in the clinic this evening. And it's really all about conserving our muscles. When we're, as Desi said, you can't do both. You can't do intense exercise and HBD at the same time. You really need to choose, because when we're doing intense exercise, we're thrown into the sympathetic nervous system, that's fight flight. And what we're trying to do, and most especially in the first 16 days of HBD, is spend much more time in the parasympathetic nervous system mode. And that's where all the magic happens. We're resting, we're digesting, we're repairing. But if we're still going helter-skelter on a treadmill or whatever else with weights, we don't get that parasympathetic activity. And that's where the rebalancing comes in, where we get the reset. So thanks, Desi. And as you said also, Desi, we're asking our bodies to do a lot. First of all, we've gone cold turkey on everything that our body had got used to. And secondly, we're telling our body that it's not getting carbohydrates anymore for energy. It's got to burn fat. And our body's saying, but I don't know how to do that. I haven't done that for ages. And we say, well, let's just go with it. And so, like we were saying, take it as easy as possible. Rest up, get more sleep, have Epsom salt baths, drink warm water, and get through it. And you'll be so proud of yourself that you did. It's really, really key.
Absolutely. I mean, it's being kind to yourself. And I think ultimately that's, for me, one of the biggest takeaways and learnings. Well, I've learned so much through HBD that's filtered through other areas of my life. But, it's learning to be kind, learning to prioritize yourself, learning to love yourself, really, in a very deep way, through caring for yourself, feeding yourself well. And that sort of reflects, and it's a real gift, because that will radiate to, your loved ones and to everybody that you come in contact with. So
beautifully well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really important. And I often wonder, I think I've said this before, but that expression, charity begins at home. I think it really means learn to love, number one, and then we get much better at loving everybody else too. And it's a difficult concept when we're younger, but we realize it, I think, as we get older. Yeah, that's really important. And setting ourselves up for success and getting really prepared with our foods and our meal planners with HBD, keeping a food diary, that's really important. I do when we're doing the reset. I don't know, do you do that when you're resetting, Desi, or do you keep it going to some degree?
Well, I decided to do it now because I had, I'm human like everybody else, and I have my moments where I go off piste and, I slip, but the secret is coming back, quickly as possible. I found that I need to keep a food diary now, just to return to the discipline. I'm weighing my food, although I can eyeball at this stage pretty well, but it's just going back to the basics. That's helping me. And I think the food diary is really key because it allows you to find out what works, what doesn't work, the quantities, your progress. It's quite nice. I look back at my diary sort of from 3 years back, and I'm not a great diary keeper by any means, but I look back and it gives me a lot of clues, and it's also quite nice.
It is quite nice, isn't it? Quite interesting.
Yeah.
And to see probably how your tastes have changed and how, having a meal out, a treat meal, you might choose completely different things now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, some people have that sugar monster.
Sugar monster, I was just going to say.
Monster.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
for all you people who are in phase 2 newbies who are going to soon have your treat meal, which is lovely. You know, for me, I really do have to regulate the sugar. And that was one of the problems this Christmas, was I kind of lost the plot. So I'm
We do
having,
sometimes. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
we
weird,
do.
isn't it? Yeah, it's
Well, we're
okay.
human.
Like
We're
you said,
human.
yeah, the most important thing is not to beat ourselves up for
No.
going off piste, but to get back on again, you know, and to
Exactly.
remember why we started this and how good we feel when we don't have too much
Absolutely.
sugar and all those things.
Yeah, but what's really great is having the community support. And I think one of the great things about the new club, which is just been brilliant, is we have, you know, we have the lovely Insta community, which is still here and very much loved. But it provides a container for new people to get the right information, the right support, all in one place. And you know, the excitement in the community is really helpful, especially during those hard days. So, you know, if you are struggling, there's always somebody within the community, the club,
Yeah,
or here on this platform, that you can email. You can always, you know, DM me and ask for help, or just ask for support,
thank you,
or if you just, yeah,
No,
absolutely.
that's really lovely of you. I can see that we've got a few questions. Should we have a look at those in the question box?
Absolutely.
So Lily Lou 56 says, I'm 69 and recently started with inflammation and swelling in my finger joints. Will HBD help? What would you say to that, Desi?
Well, it certainly won't hurt. I had really bad knee pain.
Yeah,
My husband also, and from other people in the community, inflammation pain, joint pain has been
it
relieved
really has a
by
lot.
nutrition. So I
Yeah.
would say yes.
And
I
it
would
very
say
often
yes.
happens very quickly as well, doesn't it? Like I've been getting
Absolutely.
messages saying, you know, people have been following it for 2 weeks and already everything stopped hurting. So yes, Lulu, get cracking with HBD and join us in the club if you possibly can. It'd be lovely to have you there. JR Hien, I don't know how to say it, 7. I'm celebrating my 1 year anniversary this month. Well done. I've been in phase 4 since May, having lost 3 stone, which I've maintained, but the NSVs, that's non-scale victories, which for me are just overwhelming. They have been amazing. What one thing would you say is a key? Do you mean one rule? I would say the 5 hours is absolutely key. Obviously, all the rules are really important, but drinking lots of water and 5 hours between meals and getting rid of wheat. And we also recommend that people eliminate dairy if they haven't done before in the first 16 days the in phase 2. So well done you. You're doing really well. You have done very well. Fantastic. Desi, can you see the questions there
Yeah,
as
I
well?
see one here from Tracy D29. Hi, Tracy. She says, I'm in phase 4, having lost 3 stone, but some days, not often, I feel like I need carbs. Is that normal? Is it better to give in rather than graze? Well, I would say neither, actually. Don't give in. You're stronger, you're more powerful and more resilient than you think. Drink a
Yeah.
big glass of water, a glass of warm water. And is it better to graze? No, it isn't. What I do, what I find really helpful is and I get those feelings too, so it's completely normal,
Completely.
but I ask myself the question, is this going to take me closer to my goal or further from my goal? And then I say, okay, you can have it, but you've got to wait 20 minutes. And so usually by the 20 minutes, the craving's gone. So those are just a couple of strategies. Maybe you'll find something that works for you, but no to neither. You can do this. You really can.
Yeah, love that. Fantastic answer. And also remember that, well, I don't know what phase you're in, but in phase 3 you can have sweet potatoes and they can really help to hit the spot. But yeah, just revisit your whys, you know, why are you doing this? And is that gonna take you closer or take you further away, giving into the carbs? Stay strong, like Desi says.
There's another one
Karen,
here, P.
yeah,
It's HBD Jojo at 2023. If I have an apple for breakfast, does that mean I can't have an apple later with another meal?
1 apple a day with a meal once a day. Good
Only
question.
one.
And Karen Topple 123 is saying, why warm water, please? Because it can feel really comforting, especially when
Absolutely.
it's cold outside. Do you drink hot water, Desi?
I'm doing it right
Oh,
now.
there you are. So you don't have to have it warm, but you know it is quite comforting. Tracy D29, if we're in phase 4 and haven't gained any weight, do we need to do a reset? Nope, it's personal choice. And, you know, same with Desi, most of us, when we find that we've got slightly out of hand, we tend to put ourselves back into strict phase 3 for a couple of weeks, and that usually does the trick. But, you know, if you'd like to reset, you can. That's absolutely up to you. Desi, when was your last
My
reset?
last reset was, I think, about a year and a half ago. I don't reset every year
Yeah.
because, you know, if I only have, you know, like 3 or 4 pounds or whatever, strict phase 3 works really well for me.
Yeah, me
Now
too.
there's a question here. Some pics by Rachel. She says, I've only lost 4 pounds so far, and I'm wondering if I should stick to phase 2 for longer. I've been super diligent with the rules. So should she stick to phase 2 longer than the 14 days?
No, definitely not. And that's you know, it's a common trap because staying in phase 2 and staying with the limited calories that we're getting, if we do that for too long, our metabolic rate adapts and we burn less energy because our body is essentially trying to prevent us from starving to death. So do move into phase 3 and do have that weekly treat meal, very, very important, with most of the extra calories as fats, and do add in the extra virgin olive oil. Remember that rye bread and dark chocolate are options, but the treat meal and the extra virgin olive oil and moving into phase 3 definitely isn't an option. So I hope that helps.
I have a question here by Luggy Lou. Hi Luggy Lou. She says, I'm on phase 3, day 2, and I am experiencing awful headaches. Any advice?
You can take painkillers if you need to, you know, paracetamol or Nurofen, but just don't take anything that's in a powder or a liquid. Tablets or capsules only. And do drink lots of water and do use more sea salt. Add more sea salt to your food. But it's completely normal that we get headaches
Yeah.
when we're withdrawing from things and detoxing. And I hope you
Can
feel
I,
better
can
soon.
I, yeah, can I add to that? I would look at your food diary.
Yeah,
Because in phase 3, you might be reintroducing foods such as dairy and other vegetables. And by keeping that diary, you can see you might be having an adverse, you know, intolerance to something you've added. So for me, when I re-entered phase 3, I only started adding dairy, and then I would wait 3 days before I added something else
exactly.
so that I could, yeah, so I can pinpoint what actually was causing a reaction.
Good, no, good advice, Desi. Thanks. And all that information is in the book, so do get the second edition and read through it. It's quite an easy read, and you'll find all that information in there about how to reintroduce things. You know, when you suspect it's nearly always grains, dairy, nightshades that are problems, but we can react against almost anything. You know, because we're biochemically unique individuals. So Desi's advice to keep a food diary, yes, spot on. That way you'll be able to identify things that might be giving you problems. Karen Topple123 says, benefits of the club, I don't understand what it's all about. It's all about community. It's all about sharing. It's about having weekly live clinics for Q&A. It's about connecting with other people. It's like Instagram, but it's the official place for all that because there is a lot of misinformation flying around on Instagram. And sometimes it'd be quite hard to tell what's official advice and what is somebody else's take on it. So that's really what it's all about, that you know that the advice that you're getting there and the answers to your questions are the proper official answers and the proper advice. And that's why Desi, for instance, is an HBD angel, so she can answer your questions on there, as can the other angels. And of course, I get in there as well. So have a look.
Can I just read something? Because you said this in one of your first lives all those years ago, and it's in the back of my original book, and I look at it all the time, and it's really helpful. And you said to us that you are awesome, resilient, and strong. And I believe all of us are.
Yeah.
So that message that you gave me all those years ago has really kept me going. So thank you for everything, Petronella.
I love that. And thank you, darling Desi. Thank you so much. It's lovely to have a chat here and maybe see you in the clinic later.
Yeah, I'll see you
Thank you.
there. Okay, bye.
Thanks, darling. Bye. Bye. Thanks, everybody, for joining.